Hi, everyone. This is a quick post-production note to say that Time magazine ran a story about my ultra-processed food experiment alongside other experts in the field talking about the ambiguity of defining what an ultra-processed food actually is. Shout out to Jamie Ducharme, the journalist there. She did an incredibly thorough job writing this article and gathering multiple perspectives. From a quick look at the comments, I will have many awkward forms of feedback to share with you next week. And because this article ran Wednesday, August 28th, I decided to share Shana Spence's episode with you all today. She discusses the elitism and smoke and mirrors when it comes to processed food and the wellness industry. Thanks so much for everyone's support of me and this show. I am so grateful to every one of you. And I'll link to the Time magazine article in the show notes. Welcome back to Making It Awkward. I'm your host, Jessica Wilson. Today, you'll hear my interview with Shana Spence, the creator of the Nutrition Tea and author of the recently released book, Live Nourished, Make Peace with Food, Banish Body Shame, and Reclaim Joy. The two of us talk about her experience in the fashion industry, ballet, and eating disorders, along with her experiences being included in that Washington Post article and her connection to Anand O'Connor, one of the contributing authors to that article about anti-diet dietitians and cereal commercials. We had a great conversation about the elitism in nutrition and wellness. She shared some of the feedback she's gotten after speaking at the Foodfluence conference.
So I gave a presentation, right, on food shaming at Foodfluence, which is like, I think a smaller version of Fancy, basically.
Okay.
And so my little spiel was on food shaming. And I did get into the cultural aspects because I did mention about cultural humility and why, you know, I gave the story about how here in New York, there was this white woman who opened up a Chinese restaurant, but she called it clean Chinese food. And I'm not even making this up, right? Like you can imagine how that was, how well that was received, right? It's now shut down, by the way, for good reason. But yeah, no, literally her whole tagline was, this is clean Chinese food. Again, this is a white woman, right? And so when I was giving the presentation, because I think that when I say that, the general consensus is, oh my gosh, that sounds awful. That's a little bit not okay. But there were some people in the audience who definitely had issue with me bringing that up. I will say Foodfluence is mostly white, you know, and, you know, it's definitely a pre-selected crowd on who goes, and it's a crowd that does not like that type of feedback. And so I remember getting like the cold shoulder at like when we had our, like the end of the conference, they put on this like dinner and all that, which is great. I'm not saying it was everybody, but I definitely got a few like not so nice icy stares that I definitely noticed. And I was like, wow, this is like high school again. But yeah. And I'm not going to say who or anything like that, but I'll just say that it was not well received. So, you know, when I say that some dietitians still have work to do on the cultural humility part, that is why. That is why for sure.
Got it.
Yeah.
Good times. Shana mentioned the videos that my dad and I record in which I make him try ultra-processed foods and sees what he thinks. He's tried Olipop, Magic Spoon cereal, and the high-protein, legendary branded Pop-Tarts. I almost killed him with Liquid IV. He's had some good questions like, why are we trying to come up with different versions of Gatorade? Because the original worked and the sugar in it is, quote, the energy, which we need when we're working out. I'll link to some of the Ultra Processed Friday videos in the show notes. And with that, Shana Spence is a registered dietitian nutritionist based in Brooklyn, New York. She currently works in public health for the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, doing community nutrition lessons, and also owns her own company, The Nutrition Tea. She describes herself as an all foods fit dietitian and creates a platform for open discussion on nutrition and wellness topics that are inclusive, non-diet, and weight neutral, all with an intersectionality of social justice. She also writes frequently for publications such as Self, Shape, Outside, and Well and Good magazines. Her speaking engagements include Peloton, NIDA, Eating Recovery Center, Eat Well Global, and NBC. She can be seen in media such as NPR, Shape, GQ, Self, Women's Health Magazine, Outside Magazine, ABC Good Morning America, and Healthline. Shana, welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to hear about your book process. So my listeners got a full rundown of what it's like to write a book from your and I's friend and colleague, Chrissy King, earlier this year. Mm-hmm. Can't wait to hear about yours. Express empathy, sympathy where needed, and also provide support. How's it going?
It's going well. I mean, the book right now came out a week ago, and I feel like it's been sort of a whirlwind into launching and talking about it, but I'm excited that it's, finally out in the world. I will say that. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
yes. Does it feel like you birthed something? Does it feel like it's been that process?
I imagine that's the feeling. I know, like, I haven't actually been through the birthing process, and I know probably moms are like, it's not the same thing, but I feel like it is. I feel like it is, because it's been like a 2-year writing process, and now it's out and I can share it. So sort of the same thing,
I do know. Again, as not a birthing person, this is probably the closest I'll ever get to that feeling. So 2 years, what happened 2 years ago? Did you decide to write the book? Did someone ask you?
So actually, lovely editor at Simon & Schuster had reached out to me, and she said, have you ever thought about writing a book? And I said, no, not really. I mean, I quite honestly, because I just, that fun imposter syndrome. And I was like, I cannot write a book. Like, what am I going to talk about? And it was actually literally, that's all she wrote. Have you ever thought about writing a book? And I swear that's the email. I think I still have that email. And, the fun story was that it was in my spam. And I didn't even see it until a month after she wrote it. So everyone, remember to go through your spam because you never know. You never know. But yeah. And so she actually convinced me because everything that I posted about on social media, she said you could just make into chapters in a book. And so, why not? Because if I don't do it, someone else will. So why not take that chance? So I'm glad I did. Yeah, that was about 2.5 years ago. So
So did you find it as easy as that, as like migrating social media into a book?
It was a process because I actually also first went to school for journalism and writing. So the writing process was fun for me. Like, I love writing. But trying to make it into, cause my social media posts are very, sarcastic. And so there were times when I got some edits, this isn't going to work for a book. Let's maybe tone it down. So it wasn't as smooth, and of course the research process, but it was fun, I have to say, because I do enjoy writing. So that part was easy for me. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sad that it wasn't a sassier book.
I know. She did bring up good points. She was like, this works in social media, but when someone's reading it, especially someone who doesn't know you, maybe let's try to reword this a little bit. I said, okay.
It's super interesting.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what got me and you the book attention was the social media stuff, right? And then having someone say, maybe not so much. And then perhaps wondering why more of one's social media isn't buying the book. It's like, so all of these things happened in the last 2 years.
Exactly. So yeah, it's interesting how it's very different, I guess. A book and social media are, completely different.
Completely different. So many words, not just the caption.
Yeah.
So journalism, I don't think this part was in the book. I'm excited. So was this undergrad or what?
This was undergrad, and it was actually because I specifically wanted to write in fashion magazines, like fashion journalism. And so I did go to school for fashion, fashion merchandising. And I thought, okay, I'm going to write in Vogue. I'm going to write in, Marie Claire, all those things. And, that did not happen because fashion is quite an interesting industry. I'll just say that. But, I did take, writing classes, and I really did think that I was going to be this journalist. And I kind of pivoted, but I still loved writing, in general. So so I kept that part, but just pivoted away from the fashion aspects, if you will.
Yeah. From your intro or chapter 1.
Yes.
It sounds like you were actually physically in fashion enough to be crying in a fashion closet.
Yes, I know. And that's not an exaggeration. No, I mean, I will just say the industry just wasn't right for me. I'm just going to, because I still have friends who are in the industry and love it. But it was, when I tell people that I was sort of, the Devil Wears Prada was sort of looking into my life, that's not an exaggeration. It's very, quick paced, people like to, I don't even know how to put it nicely. Just where I was, it was just an environment where it was very much everyone wanted to be on top. And, it was a little bit too cutthroat for me. So I got out, but I was definitely crying in the closets because, fun microaggressions, little snide comments here and there. Just, sometimes you just have to cry, and then go back to, sorting the clothes.
So I know you said again in your book, you're like, oh, everybody wants to talk about fashion. And honestly, I am so curious about this, the day-to-day minutia of what folks do, perhaps maybe more than the fashion. So
sure. Yeah.
What would a 9 to 5 look like for you?
Oh yeah. So when I was interning, and I was a fashion assistant also, what it was because I went from intern to fashion assistant, at the magazine. And it sounds more glamorous than it is. It's basically all the clothes that you see at the photo shoots, you have to pick up from all the stores. You have to pick up from the designers. So I don't know if anyone's seen the Devil Wears Prada where she's running around with all the clothes. That actually happens. You actually have to do that. And so we're picking up the clothes. Then the editor comes in and she sorts through the clothes, says what she likes, what she doesn't. The fun part was, quite honestly, there were a couple times when I got to go to fashion shoots. That was really cool. I did meet Naomi Campbell. She will not she would not know or recognize me. I will say that, but I did say hi, at the fashion shoot. I will say that, but that was really cool. But it was just, it looks glamorous, but it's very grueling, and it's not even 9 to 5. I'm using quotes here. It's more 10 to sometimes 11 p.m. And so it was long days. And then I also was, I worked at, my last job was at J. Crew working as a merchandiser production manager. And that was definitely a little more office type of work, but it was important, right? Because we had to make sure the clothes got into the stores. So that's sort of where I ended my fashion career. And then I changed to being a dietitian. So lots of fun stuff. Not maybe as glamorous as you would think, but still got the job done.
Can I
Yeah.
ask one question?
Yes.
When you were gathering all these clothes, did you just walk in and say, my name is Shana, give me thousands of dollars worth of merchandise and I'm just going to walk out of the store? Is that how it works?
Well, no. So they knew so they like know when you're coming.
Yes.
And they already have like pre-picked. I think the editor, I'm not sure how much time in advance these things were picked out, but they always knew we were coming. So we didn't have like that much like presence where I could just walk in and say, hey, like I'm here.
Right. And then maybe just take it and like make rent for the next 5 years.
Exactly.
You didn't do that is what I'm hearing.
No.
Okay. Some integrity there versus maybe what I would have done. But I'm glad
it's
for
tempting.
you.
Don't get me wrong. It was tempting.
Okay. And then with the J. Crew overlap, like was that with ballet as you discussed when you got back into dancing?
Yeah. I mean, I had always sort of danced after college. I kind of here and there, but definitely when I was at J. Crew, I had that teacher that I was talking about in the book who was very, and you know, I really have such respect for her. Even though, you know, it was very triggering at the time, but yeah, that's where I really sort of realized I was pretty good at dance and really developed a love for it, even though it came with maybe some, you know, not so great stuff, but that's sort of when I really truly developed a love for the art form, and I still do. So yeah, that was really during J. Crew and a little bit before that as well.
Got it. One of the lines you had in the book was the leg lengthening, and I'm sure many people, can discuss it, but can you go through that term and all of the things that it means?
Yeah. So in dance in general, but especially ballet, it's all about what are called your lines, right? How symmetrical you look on stage and, you know, and so they will, and when I say they, I mean a teacher or whoever, art director, they will always say, you know, it's good that your limbs are lengthening or that they are, you know, they look long, you know, elongated on stage. And while that's true, while anyone can, you know, you can have beautiful lines at any size, I will just say that, but it's also for sure a code word for looking slimmer, right? For being like petite and tiny. And so I think because I wasn't in an adult class, it wasn't just, oh, you look like you lost weight, or, oh, you look like you're slimming down. It was, your legs are lengthening. You know, I didn't grow. I was like 25, 26, you know, it's not like I was actually growing, right? But, you know, that was the code word for, you know, you look slimmer. Oh, your legs look longer. They're lengthening. And that's sort of, a lot of the code words that you'll hear about in dance, especially ballet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I talk about some of that in my relationship working with Lexi, who folks have heard, here, and the gymnastics of all of that. And where do you think the intersection with Blackness and ballet, as far as that like lengthening and such, plays out?
Oh, for sure. Because I think that there's this stereotype for sure about, I was actually having this conversation, with my neighbor, cause we went to the ballet, last Thursday.
Oh.
We're actually sitting in the audience having this discussion because there were so many Black ballerinas on stage. And she was saying to me, she said, I don't think I've seen this before, meaning so many Black women. And I said, yeah, I know, because there's a stereotype with Black bodies and how we present ourselves both physically and also as far as presence, right? Like, you know, it's the typical stereotypes about being aggressive to aggressive on stage and then to muscular, all of these things. And in gymnastics, of course, it's the same thing, right? And so there's definitely been a lack, I think, of representation on both sides for a while. And now, especially with gymnastics, I mean, look at the Olympics. I think it was, how many? I think there were 3 Black women, or maybe, I forget how many, but that's more than we've than we're usually seeing. And
Yeah.
especially in dance, you know, that
Mhm.
performance, there were so many Black ballerinas, but it's because there hasn't been a lack of representation that everyone is so astonished by that. And that's
Mhm.
because our bodies are so discriminated against, you
Mhm.
know, so we're seen as too muscular. And when you look at what the other dancers look like, you also see muscle tone. But for some reason, I think because of the stereotypes with Black women being aggressive, you know,
Mhm.
in the media, not just dance, but throughout, I
Mhm.
think that that's weaponized against us. So it's unfortunate, you know? Because you'll also see, you know, women who, you know, you'll see white women, Asian women who also have muscle, you know, muscle
Okay.
tone. And it's
Uh-huh.
like, oh, that's fine. It's fine for them.
Mm. Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you find that you mentioned making yourself smaller and smaller
Oh, for sure.
serve the purpose there. Do you feel like you needed to be even smaller than white dancers in order to get that feedback? I don't know.
Yeah. It was a lot happening because at the time, I mean, like I said, I really loved dance and I was very
Mhm.
excited to keep doing it. But part of that was just me being very miserable in my fashion world. So I
Mm.
have to say that's also why I wasn't really taking care of myself and I was restricting to
Mm.
the point. So it
Mhm.
wasn't totally just wanting to look a certain way. I
Got
think
it.
that once I started getting feedback though from my
Got it.
teacher, it kind of
Yeah.
fueled it because I felt like I was in
Mhm.
control.
Yeah.
You know, so I will say that it wasn't the start of my eating issues, but
Mhm.
it definitely was triggered
Yeah.
when she recognized it, you know, and it was
Mm.
like, oh,
Mhm.
maybe this is something that I can be in control of in my life.
Mhm.
So let me try
Mhm.
more, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, I will say that. Yeah.
And then I think in the book, you mentioned that you would never say you had anorexia because you never got, treatment for it, which is so
Yes.
consistent. I asked Chrissy King the same thing, and she described everything that she had going on behaviors wise. And I was like, so would you, say that was an eating disorder?
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't know. I heard something similar in your book.
Yes, I know because I don't, it's hard to say because I don't want to say yes because, you know,
Sure.
maybe if
Yep.
I did the whole DSM thing, like it
Uh-huh.
would say no, you know, to me, but
Mm.
all the criteria was there. Like, let's be
Mm-hmm.
real. You
Yeah.
know,
Uh-huh.
I was very frail. I was always getting sick.
Yeah.
I was not eating.
Mm-hmm.
My hair was coming out. I wasn't
Mm.
getting my period anymore. I mean, all the
Yeah.
things were there, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's hard to just say yes for certain because there is criteria, you know, as you know,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's hard to say for sure.
And I'll ask you the same question. If everything that
Yeah.
you had going on you would see in like a blonde white woman, would you say she had anorexia?
I would say probably. I wouldn't want to diagnose either, but I would
Sure.
say, yeah, that woman needs help. Yeah. And I don't mean that to be funny, but like, you know,
No,
like
yeah.
let's seek some,
Yeah.
assistance there. Yeah.
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 Yeah. That dissonance is something that I find consistently in
Mm-hmm.
many people, including
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. Nosy question. You said you were
Yes.
using an app at the time.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
so curious.
I know they wouldn't let me name it in the book,
Oh,
but I don't like whatever. It was Lose It. Is that
okay.
even still
That's
out? I don't even know if that's still an app, but it was Lose It.
I want to say yes. And
Okay.
I'm just going to side and backtrack to one of our earlier episodes for listeners. In the Washington Post of it all, Anat O'Connor was one of the contributors to the
Yes.
initial article, and he developed the app and wrote the book. And
See,
I'm like, oh,
I
so you're
always come
impartial.
full circle with that
Yes.
man because, yes, because now I remember his book
Mhm.
that was one of his books. Yeah. Okay. My good friends. Okay.
Right. So we should say that you were one of the dietitians mentioned in all of,
Yes.
all of
And all
that
the
business.
fun. Yeah. It went like, okay, so I have to say that article, as far as my part in it, it wasn't that bad for me.
Yeah.
And, it was interesting because I think it was so heavy on those other dietitians mentioned.
Yeah.
I was all the way at the bottom. I don't even think a lot of people realize I was one of the dietitians mentioned.
Yeah.
And I think, I spoke to Sasha, who you had on the podcast.
Totally. Yeah.
So yeah. So, and the thing was, when he reached out to me, I knew what the article was going to entail. Of course they worded it, we just want to talk about, I forgot what he said, something about, because I always talk about processed food, obviously.
Sure.
And, so he was like, oh, would you like to chat about that? And I was like, oh, he's going to try to tear me a new one. But I said, sure, why not? I don't have anything to hide.
We're going to do it.
So I did. And, I told him, I made it very clear my stance. I did not change my stance. And we spoke, and, there was definitely some shade thrown my way, when they wrote that article, of course, about the processed foods. But, I think that it's so interesting. And I have to say, I love whenever you do your series with your dad on the processed foods and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so interesting to me because people will think that I'm just talking about potato chips or cookies. And it's like, no, like all this other stuff is processed. And I think that's the goal. That's always my goal whenever I'm talking about it. But, of course, the Washington Post was like super shady and wrote this whole thing.
Doritos.
Yeah, Doritos.
Like I'm out there talking about Mountain Dew. That's what she's doing.
Yeah, because I'm totally telling people to consume that daily. That's totally what I'm doing as a dietitian.
Right? I get paid billions of dollars, also by big food.
By big food, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I'm writing this book.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I think one of the things he mentioned too, he was like, oh, you were paid by PepsiCo to talk about processed foods. I was like, I sure was, because it took a lot of time to put that presentation together. So I was paid. I was paid for it. Yep. Yes. But, of course they didn't write the part where PepsiCo did not tell me what to say. Sure. Of course, they took that part out, but it was just like, she's paid by PepsiCo. Yes, I was paid because it's my job to talk about these
bills.
things.
Okay.
I have bills, just like you do.
I'm not independently wealthy, just out here in these internet streets. That's not what's going on here.
Well, you know what was so funny? There was a TikTok that they also put out, and they were saying, they were like, like the dietitians who are taking money, that's like a designer bag, the amount of money they're getting. I was like, wait, people can afford multiple designer bags? I was like, maybe I'm not asking for enough money. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, they're making it seem like we're getting paid, a lot of money. It's like, no, not really.
That's so specific. I missed that one. I might have to dive.
I'll send it. Weird. If I can find it again, I'll send it to you.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Oh, bananas out there. Okay. You mentioned how so many foods are processed, and I know that something folks really love of yours is just the connection to wellness and elitism. And I love in the book that you mentioned the NGOOP Health Conference, because folks will know that I totally went to that and I had such a fucking good time. It was so good. The best time. I was like, this is book research. This is a business expense. I'm going.
I love that you were there.
It was so fun. And in the book I say, and I don't think people on the podcast have heard, that there was nothing about weight loss. There was never a mention of calories. It was never you need to be thin, or however it was. It is like, these products are going to enhance, your life. Right. Yes. Dusts are going to make you into a better person. It's fine.
Oh my God.
But what do you think a lot of the either panic, or what are the connections to elitism and processed foods?
Yeah, I think that it's so interesting because there's definitely a certain mindset when people talk about one food being better than another, right? Because they will talk about, I don't even know, like certain protein powders being not good enough, or look at all these chemicals in this protein powder. And then they'll have something on sale that costs a lot more I always have to say that if you notice the difference in price tag, a
Mm-hmm.
ton more. But when you look at the ingredients, they're still similar.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I don't know why we're talking about one being better than the other. And
Mhm.
it really comes down to an elitist mindset because one is more expensive
Mhm.
and also one is harder to access.
Mhm.
So I think when people look at those two components, oh, it's more expensive. Oh, not everyone can afford this. Not everyone can even buy this. This isn't just available at your local grocery store.
Mhm.
It means that it's better. And I
Mhm.
notice that with a lot of wellness products in general. It's really just smoke and mirrors because
Mhm.
even, we don't have this here in New York, but I think in California, is it Erewhon supermarket
Yeah,
or
it is.
something?
It's Erewhon for
Erewhon,
sure.
yeah, right. I keep seeing that all over because
Yeah.
they keep like naming smoothies after
Yeah.
celebrities.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, like there was a Hailey Bieber one and I
For
forgot
sure.
another one, but I'm always so intrigued because I say, okay, what's in this product, right? What, like, does it even taste good? I don't know. And it's all this stuff that, I think the Hailey one was like strawberries,
Yep.
bananas, and then, you know,
Skin
some
products.
fancy powders. Yeah. Collagen, of course. And it's so interesting to me because it was like $18 for a
Oh, yeah.
well, actually, you know, from in New York, you know, we're kind of pricey over here too. So I have to say it wasn't really the price
Fair.
because I was like,
Yeah.
well, that's New York too. But
Fair.
I was just intrigued about what was in it because, you know, and then when you looked at it, it's like, okay, I mean, there's nothing like what's really so special about this product. And then of course it went, you know, I noticed so many people were trying it and saying, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, her skin is smooth. I will look like this. It's like, no, you
Mhm.
won't. She's very rich. She's
No.
also, you
Yeah.
know, I don't know, but I do know that she definitely has money. Okay. I don't know,
Mhm.
you know, what else she's doing, but it's, you know, it's very interesting, the sort of concept of if I drink this drink, even if it's subconsciously, there's still
Mhm.
like a message there. If you drink this, you will look like that. And it's like,
Sure.
no, you need a lot more money in order to look
Mhm.
like that. And also, you know, different genetics, of course. But
Yeah.
I think that that's what wellness is to me. It's like, cause in the book, I kind of talk about it being sort of like this nightclub because I don't even remember how I came up with that concept, but it reminds me of whenever you see people waiting in line for a club, for
Oh,
a
yeah, yeah.
nightclub, right? Not that I
Yeah.
go to clubs.
Yeah.
This is like back in
Sure.
my
No.
20s. Okay. But you know, there's a long line outside. And then when
Mhm.
you get inside, there is no one there. They literally have a line outside to make it look
Yeah.
appealing, to make it look
Yeah.
popular. And then you get
Yeah.
inside and you're like, what the hell? Like that's what wellness
Mm.
reminds me of. It's like this
Mm.
long line to access something. And then when you're
Mhm.
actually taking it or eating it, drinking it or whatever,
Mhm.
what's so great about it? Nothing really.
Mm-mm.
So that's what it reminds me of in a nutshell. It's just a lot of smoke and mirrors, you know, and I'm not saying the
Yeah.
products are bad. I'm not saying that they don't taste good. I'm sure that
Mhm.
smoothie is delicious. I'm just saying that you don't have to have access to those things if you can't afford it.
Mhm.
It's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. That's the whole point. But yeah.
A few things on Erewhon. I thought that
Yeah.
wellness culture in LA was the same as New York. I was
Oh, for sure.
surprised. I was
Oh,
so
for
surprised. I asked
really?
Chrissy and
Oh,
another.
yeah.
I was asked Chrissy and another friend, take me to all these weirdo places. And she was like, I have never eaten this stuff. And I was like, wow. So this is very California weird
Yeah.
specific.
Oh, yeah, for
Erewhon
sure.
I had no idea. I thought everybody was just weird. Everybody with money was that kind of weird, but it turns out
like we definitely have our we could have our like weird stuff, but it's not like it. I think that LA, and I visited LA like a couple of times, and there's definitely a difference there. Like New York, we definitely have like the bougie like fitness classes, you know, that are overpriced and stuff like that. But there's definitely, when it comes to food, there's definitely more of that, I think, in California from what I notice. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. I was very happy for Chrissy and others that they had never like been served a plate with dust on it or whatever. But you mentioned that smoothie, and I will always add there was collagen, but there's also hyaluronic acid. So like literally the idea
Oh my God.
that
I missed that
in my moisturizer, which is why it's a skin smoothie, right? Obviously. So because if I eat it, same with collagen, it's going to somehow end up on my face. That is bananas.
I missed that ingredient. Oh my gosh. I was skimming the ingredients. I was skimming the ingredients so fast. That's okay. That's
right.
even,
wow.
That's
the one. Yeah. And it embarrassingly tastes like a strawberry milkshake. I am embarrassed. It's weird. Yeah. I know whatever artificial flavoring, that's really natural flavoring, but whatever is in there, they totally nailed it. But next to that smoothie, you can also get a raw meat smoothie. Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that. Like, that's kind of
like raw organ meats in blended, and you can drink it.
That is such an LA thing. Like
raw meat may cause like you to die, but here we are, and I tried to get like anyone please try this and tell me no,
you're on your own with that one.
Yeah.
So all of those things, but if I like for some reason one afternoon just want some Doritos, I will look down upon. I just like love that concept because it's so true. It's like, wow, you really are destroying your body, but yet you're drinking raw meat through a straw.
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
You are, and that makes me better. But also, right, any of the cooked organ meats, are associated with like poor communities, with Black and brown communities. Like we would never eat X, Y, or Z thing. We only eat chicken breasts or like boiled, maybe salted, maybe not. This is what we eat. But if we put it in an expensive grocery store, we don't cook it and we put it through a straw. It's like really healthy.
It's so healthy. Got it. Okay.
And
it's amazing. Anyhow. That is wellness. That is literally wellness in a nutshell right there. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Right. And the gummy candies there, instead of like xanthan gum or whatever, they have like wax in the
right.
Wax, like actual wax. So I'm still eating weird shit. It just costs more and it's the same shit. I don't get it. It's so bananas. Healthy candy though. Okay.
Healthy candy. Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
Right.
Oh God. My face right now. I'm just like, oh.
It's going great out there. I love Nutrition Land, love wellness. It's going real great. So yeah, I always appreciate your the secret is money. The secret to wellness. Yeah. The secret is money.
It's not the Hailey Bieber smoothie. Like you said, it tastes great. Clearly, I haven't tried one, but everyone says it's delicious. But you're not going to look like that. And it's so funny because, when we're talking, another one who I hear about a lot is Jennifer Lopez. Like everyone said, oh, she looks so good for 50 or whatever. And she does. I'm not saying that these people don't, but it's just so interesting that when you actually look at what she's doing and all of these skincare routines and all of these, which when they say skincare routines, I'm always like, okay, doctor appointments, right? It's just, that costs money. It's not, I don't know why some people have problems connecting that. And I say that because I get a lot of pushback. Of course, as do a lot of things I say, but people are like, oh, why can't you just say that they look good? I said, they do look good, but I just don't understand why we can't say they have access to resources, not just money, but like people and all of these things that many normal folks do not. And we need to start, saying that out loud. We need to start realizing that because I think that we're, and I say out loud because I think that people push that to the side. People are like, oh gosh, I need to try this. moisturizer, or I need to do this. It's like, no, there's a lot more that goes into it. Trust me. Yeah.
Use lotion, but also have realistic expectations.
Exactly. That's a great tagline too. It's like, this lotion is great, but let's like lower your expectations a bit.
Nobody wants to hear that. No one wants to hear having lower expectations.
Yeah, right.
Yes. So if you were going to leave some folks with more of what you packed into your book, like what do you think it's important for people to take away?
I think my main goal is to have people realize that nutrition is not one size fits all. And it's not, even health in general is not one size fits all. And I think that there are often forgotten factors. Like I talk about the social determinants of health in the book, because that's often very much forgotten, like the systemic barriers. And these are all things that affect people's health that come into play. So my goal is for people to recognize that it's not just how we eat, how we move, it's not the $15 smoothie. It's like all of these other factors. And so, that's my one takeaway that I would love for people to get from the book, is just to have that realization. Because I'm not saying not to do all those things, not to do all those extra things. I also sometimes take, the too expensive yoga class, but I also recognize that there's a lot of privilege in doing that. And also giving sort of a generalized tips, hopefully, on how to actually nourish ourselves. That's not based in restriction. I think that's also important, because people, I think too often the books are, don't eat this, don't do this. And we need a book that's a little bit different. So that's hopefully my goal with this book. Yeah. And why I wanted to write it.
Sure. I noticed that you did go through the intuitive eating principles. And I know that you and I both, at one point, I feel like connected on critiques of intuitive eating. So I was wondering how you decided to put it still in there.
Yeah, I think that there's just a lot of privilege with intuitive eating. And I noticed that you can just see it in posts. And I just want to say again, there is nothing against, the intuitive eating counselors or dietitians. Sure. I just want to make that disclaimer. But I just think that there's so much privilege in saying, oh, you can just eat the cookie, or you can just, feel your fullness, or, all these posts, but you're not recognizing how privileged that is, because there are folks who have trauma. There are folks who have, barriers into getting to that point. I think that oftentimes I also notice a lot of those posts about being able to eat and being able to just eat anything, they also don't go there politically, because there's a lot of stuff happening now where people can't access food. We have, school lunches. Some government wants to take that away, and all these things. But we're telling people, no, just eat anything. Like we can't, so that's my issue with those messages, is that it's not enough for me. Cause I agree, we should be able to eat cookies. Like cookies taste great. But I also, but I think that there's privilege in saying that. And I never see more from those posts. So I did write a chapter about it, kind of going through the principles, because I don't disagree with those principles, but I think that we could do more. Yeah. Okay. We could do more.
Got it. Because you did start it with like, this is the reasons that it doesn't work for so many people, and then went into them. And I know that when I was writing a book, they were looking at times from like more prescriptive, like this is what you should do. Did you get that feedback at all, or like feel kind of pressure to give people a path rather than just throwing a bunch of critiques out there?
Yes. I wanted to, I actually decided to write a chapter on intuitive eating myself, and of course I got the feedback too, like, let's not bash, and I would never bash it. I'm just saying I'm critiquing it. There's a difference, right? And so I think that I definitely got the feedback, okay, well, what can people do? And I did want to give a more generalized kind of take on things, for sure on my own. So it wasn't just the editors, even though they were very nervous. But I don't think I said anything bad. I really don't. I just think that it can be, well, you know how people can take things, but
I do know how people.
I know.
Sure do.
You know. Yeah, but I just think that, again, like, I think that there can be more said with intuitive eating, and also realizing, you know, like we both know it doesn't work for everyone. And I think we need to start realizing that. Because I keep also seeing the posts like intuitive eating is for everyone. It's not though. It's not. Yeah.
No. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Good luck with your book. Keep doing your vampire facials and everything that will keep you in peak wellness. Go get those salmon injections. You can just go over to the men's Soho Clinic.
Oh my God.
Soho Men's Clinic. Yeah. Just
That's
head
probably
over
where they are. That's where they are.
Go over there. You know, make sure that you're keeping up with everything that you need to be doing, Soul Cycle, etc., for the long and wonderful journey that is book promotion.
Yes, definitely. You know, listen, maybe that will help. Maybe that will help with the energy levels. Yep. You never know.
Yeah, don't smell your pillowcase, but it'll be great.
That's great.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much to Shana for coming on the show. You can find her book, Live Nourished, Make Peace with Food, Banish Body Shame, and Reclaim Joy wherever books are sold. Until next time, friends, keep making it awkward. This has been Making It Awkward. I'm your host, Jessica Wilson. You can email your awkward feedback along with episode pitches to makingitawkwardpod@gmail.com. You can join this show's Patreon, linked in the show notes. This show was edited and mixed by the elite Jen Jacobs. It is sponsored by Patreon members and the legacy of Sacramento Outboard Services.